Ladies and gentlemen, I am here tonight to celebrate the genius who brought us the world's greatest dip. Yes, while some inventors dreamed of flying cars and others aspired to cure diseases, my former shipmate dedicated his life to perfecting the art of creamy, savory bliss that I use to grace every NFL gathering. So let's raise a chip in tribute to a true culinary innovator who taught me that life is better when shared, especially with a side of dip. Hello, everybody. This is a Points on the Board clip. So, those of you who actually know me, the one, two, three, the few, the proud, know that I am actually a pioneer in the fantasy sports industry who commercialized or was part of the group that helped commercialize that industry into one of thousands of jobs and multi billions. I'm just waiting for my check still. So, I wanted to talk to you about one of the best dips I have ever experienced. And the man who handed that down to me. And the reason I say that is because I met this individual back in the late 80s, the late 1980s, as an extremely young man in the United States Navy. His name was John Verassi. Now, John was your classic New Yorker. And I don't know if that's good or positive because I know this. Most New Yorkers with their arrogant attitude tend to piss me off, even the ones I like, even some of my relatives. New Yorkers just have this arrogant, brazen attitude. And if I tell them this as I'm telling you that now, they're going to go, damn right. They're proud of who they are, and what they represent. So when I was in the military, I met Petty Officer Verassi. I was a lowly seaman at the time, and I noticed most people didn't like Verassi. I've always made it a belief or a way of life of just accepting people for who they are and taking from them what I can, meaning I'm there to learn. He was an E5 at the time. He was in charge with another E5 of the division who answered to an E6, but I worked with those two E5s. And the other E5, his name was Mark Hinson, was more of a mentor. Turns out he's a flaming leftist today, and we don't get along politically, but he's a good man. Verassi was his equal, but wasn't in charge of the division or wasn't the number two guy under the E6, the Petty Officer First Class. And I got to know Verassi because I was a newbie there and we got along. For some reason, I didn't act my age. I was a kid at heart, but I was given more and greater responsibility than the average. So I was working under both of those guys. Now, Verassi, again, wasn't very well liked, but I took a liking to him because I accepted him for who he was. I accepted his brazen New Yorker attitude. I accepted his arrogance. I accepted who he was because he was not a bad human being. He was just your typical New Yorker. So we were out one night, and Verassi was married, a little bit older. Well, not really a little bit older, but being an E5, me being a young seaman, you know, uh, there was a little bit of experience and maturity separating us. And we went out one night, typical sailor night, going out for beers. He was married. We headed home. Rather, we stopped off at his pad. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. It was probably a weeknight, and I probably crashed there, and we went into the command together the following morning. So we get back to his place, and we're hungry. And he goes, hold on, let me check something. So he pulls out a few ingredients. Next thing you know, he's turning the stove on. He was a self-professed uh, chef in his mind. I can't remember if he was or not in real life, and we're buzzed. And I take put my chip into that dip. And I was like, oh my God. It was the most incredible dip I had ever had. And he gave me the recipe. It's a simplistic recipe. I'll give it to you in a second. But We went our own merry ways after that command. I never saw him again after that. And that's how it is in the military. It cracks me up when friends say, yeah, yeah, this guy's my friend, that guy's my friend. You really don't make friends in the military. When I was like a five commands, I was considered the sailor of death. Uh, uh, I went and decommissioned a lot of commands. And uh, so I left that command, never heard from him, never looked him up. We weren't that type. You meet a lot of acquaintances, you have a lot of great memories. That's when I learned that life is a journey, make it an adventure. And I really did. And this was part of my adventure. And John, I couldn't remember his name. His name is John Verassi. And for the longest time, I couldn't remember his name because for years, it was late 80s, for years up until this year, or August or July of 2024. Last week, I remembered his name. I was like, oh my God, it's John Barassi. And out of the blue, I remember the name. And when I looked him up, I couldn't find him. I struggled to find him. There were other Barassis, and I remembered how he looked. And then, boom, I found him. And I was saddened. He had passed, you know? And I was hoping to reconnect with him and tell him, dude, your dip has made me a lot of friends and has won a lot of accolades in too many football living rooms to count, or rather, living rooms on football Sunday to count. I present to you what I am going to call the late, great John Robert Verassi. As you can see, that is the great Robert Verassi. He died young, August 17, 1962. So I didn't realize it. He was 4 years older than me. So there was a maturity gap. I was in my early 20s at the time. Beloved husband, father, uncle, and friend, John Robert Verassi, age 54, passed away on Saturday, June 10th, 2017, with his wife at his side. I had to count 7 years ago. So I was 7 years too late in tracking him down. So I just want to say, John, rest in peace. Thank you, my friend or shipmate, for passing me on what I consider the world's greatest dip. And my friends, that dip I present to you. And I now call it the John Verassi dip. That's what I will always call it till the end of my days. And it's a very simple dip. It's 1 pound of ground beef, 16 ounces of Velveeta original cheese. They have a salsa version now. You can use that too. And 16 ounces of salsa. Victoria or Ortega works. It can be homemade if you want. That tends to be a little watery, but the directions are pretty simple. You brown the meat, drain the fat. Me being the health nut I am, I get the lean meat. This is not a healthy dip, people. Processed cheese, salsa from the bottle. The meat that's better than the fresh salsa for this recipe. But you brown the meat, you drain the fat. Hey, and guys, I know when you're in college or you're a working class man, I understand you get that cheap meat, so you better drain that fat for your own health. Then you just pour the sauce into the meat. You keep it heated, and you let it slowly warm, and you chop up. You cut that Velveeta cheese into chunks, and then you slowly mix it in, and it's done. You stir it into a creamy sauce and serve. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to lie here. Ooh, where am I here? That sauce or that dip has been a massive hit every party I go to. At one party, people thought, obviously, some lady, oh, looks like somebody throwing up there and kind of burn me up. You don't sit there and talk about my dip that way. Somebody sat there and said, let me check it out. Took a bite, and my dip won the day. And here's the thing. People actually get jealous of this. Don't fill yourself up on the dip, man. I got food on the grill. Or, honey, don't fill yourself up on the dip. They can't stop eating it. Oh, obviously you need chips. I did not have that in the recipe. But yes, you need a couple of bags of chips with that. But my friends, that's it. That is what I call the John Barassi dip. To my shipmate, God rest your soul. And until we meet again, I'm thinking of you every time I make that dip. And to everybody else, use this dip at your fantasy league draft. You'll be a hit. Do it after before the draft. Have it out there on the table. People will not only think you are the greatest, they will always remember that draft, no matter how good or bad their team is. That's where I first realized how big of a hit it was. Sunday NFL parties, Sunday cookout or cookouts, anywhere you go, always offer to bring this and you will be invited back again. And there you have it, my friends. The John Verasi dip. Rest in peace, John Verasi. And to everybody else, this has been a Points on the Board clip. And until next time, this is William Del Pilar. I bid you adieu.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.